Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Combining Herbs and Essential Oils, the 8-week complete home formulary course. I'm Lisa Bonise, and I'm really looking forward to hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll chat with plant medicine expert David Crowe and address questions about his upcoming 8-week course, Combining Herbs and Essential Oils, which begins Wednesday, November 28th. Later, I'll explain how you can participate in David's course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. David Crowe is one of the world's foremost experts and leading speakers in the field of botanical medicine and grassroots healthcare. He's a master herbalist, aromatherapist, and acupuncturist with over 30 years of experience, and he's an expert in the Ayurvedic and Chinese medical systems. David is a renowned author, poet, and the founding director of Floracopia Aromatic Treasures. His articles have been published in several magazines, and his book, In Search of the Medicine Buddha, has been translated into 3 foreign editions. And in just a little while, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome David Crowe. Welcome, David. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Always nice to be here.
All right. Well, I know I'm certainly looking forward to it. I always learn something from you, David. And for our viewers, we have the rest of our time together to dive into questions for David as we prepare for his upcoming course. Again, that's called Combining Herbs and Essential Oils, and it begins Wednesday, November 28th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 8-week course, you can visit combiningherbsandoils.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with questions. If you have a question for David, go ahead and type it in, and I'll be happy to pass them on. And in the meantime, we've got a big list of questions already that David's got waiting for him. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David and let him go.
Okay. Thank you again, Lisa. And thank you to everybody for being here and for sending so many good questions. Now, when we do these question and answer sessions, there's always a lot of questions about complicated medical situations that people are having. And this is understandable because people need help, and people need answers, and people need information about what they can do to take care of themselves, and people don't want to stay on the medications. They are looking for alternatives. But I'll just mention that several of the questions, many of the questions actually that came in, are far too complicated for a question and answer session like this. As a matter of fact, there were a few things that came in that sounded a little bit like medical emergencies that should be taken care of. So I'll just mention to the gentleman who's having symptoms of acute kidney infection and losing a lot of weight quickly over the last couple of days, this is something you should be seeing your doctor for. So there are these kind of questions that come up in the course also. Whenever I teach one of these herbal courses, there are always people in the class who have significant medical concerns, and that's why they're taking the class. And I also would like to clarify before we start here the scope of what the course is about and what it's not about. This is a home formulary course, and that means that these are formulas of combined herbs and essential oils that should be in the home for treating common, uncomplicated situations. A lot of these combinations of herbs and essential oils can be very beneficial and helpful for more complicated medical conditions. And as we go through some of these questions, I'll elaborate on that a bit more. But you should know at the beginning that this is not a course where we will be able to do in-depth personal medical consultations. A lot of the questions that come, there's not a simple answer. And sometimes it's not even appropriate to treat with natural medicine. Sometimes these are very challenging situations where you should really be seeing a doctor and you should be working with a holistic practitioner. And then there's a role for natural medicine. Once you have a good diagnosis and the situation is stabilized a bit, then a lot of these herbs and essential oils can be very helpful. So the scope of practice of this course is using simple, easily available herbs and essential oils in all kinds of different preparations, as you're going to learn. And these are things that everybody can use for a wide variety of conditions that are not complicated medical conditions, but at the same time, for people who have more complicated medical conditions, if you're stable, these combinations can help quite a lot also, as you'll learn. There's a number of these questions that I am going to answer here, medical, personal questions, and I'll tell you how we will address these in this particular course. Now, there's a few practical things to get started with that people are asking. One question here, are you teaching how to make your own formulas? Yes. The answer is very simple, yes. Well, what does that mean, make our own formulas? You will hear a lot of examples just in the following questions here in a few minutes of what I mean by making our own formulas. So the primary ways that we make our own formulas in this course is that we will have a specific list of herbal ingredients and a specific way of measuring those ingredients and a specific way of preparing them, and then some very specific tinctures, or in the pediatric modules, the glycerites, the non-alcohol tinctures, that will be added to those base teas. And in some cases, we'll be using some herbal powders. In some cases, we will be using some herbal baths. There's a lot of different methods, a lot of different ways of using the herbal medicines. And that's something that you'll learn a lot from. And then the essential oils will be combined together with the herbal formulas. And sometimes it's a single oil, and sometimes it's a blend of essential oils. And just as there are a lot of different ways of making and using and applying the herbs, there's also a lot of different ways of preparing and applying and using the essential oils also. Let's look at another very simple question here. And will the course be offered in a PDF format? I find it difficult to listen, enjoy the energy of the call, and take notes at the same time. I wanted to let everybody know at the beginning that, yes, at the beginning of every module, you'll actually receive several files, and the transcript will be available at that time. So you can just open the transcript and follow along. And all of the class will be there written out. And so, yes, that's another aspect of this course. So you don't have to try to listen and take notes all at the same time. So next question here. Now, this is another practical question. And this is something I'm answering because I imagine there's probably several people who might be wondering this. If I took the intensive class, would I benefit from this class? Well, I've actually taught many intensive courses for the Shift Network and in other places. And so I would say that if you have taken any of those intensives, you have taken an intensive course on herbal medicine, or you have taken an intensive course on essential oils and aromatherapy. Now, will you benefit from this class? Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of benefits. And some of those are going to come specifically because this is a course about how to combine the herbs and oils. That's the primary focus. So if you took the intensive herbal course, you learned a lot of information about herbs, but you're also going to get some new herbs in this program as well. If you took the intensive aromatherapy course, then you will know most of the oils, but there'll be some new methods, and most importantly, there will be how to combine them with herbs. So this course is different than the intensive courses because there are 204 formulas that are in this program. And that's counting it as one formula that combines a number of herbs and a number of essential oils. So if we actually break it down, it's 408 different formulas. It's 204 formulas of herbs, and it's 204 formulas of essential oils and how to combine them. One of the things that you'll learn also in the course is that a lot of these are somewhat interchangeable because in every module we have 4 or 5 or 6 different sections, and a lot of those sections are closely related. So for example, in the module for relaxing the nervous system, well, there's formulas for relaxation and anxiety, which I'm going to touch on here because a lot of people are asking about anxiety. And there's also a section on treating tension headaches. Well, anything that's going to be good for relaxing anxiety will probably be helpful for tension headaches and vice versa. So there's quite a lot of versatility here as well. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the practical questions here. And these are medical questions, but they're the type of medical questions that this course will answer and will give you information on how to treat. So the question is, what herbs would you suggest for better sleep? And what essential oils would you suggest for anxiety and depression? Well, that will give us several hours of material to talk about just right now, because sleep, anxiety, and depression are 3 of the most crucial, pressing problems that everybody's having now. So many questions like this came in, and I'm just going to answer this in some detail to give you some idea about the practical things that you can do and also give you a glimpse into how the formulary works. And this will actually address many people's questions. Lots of questions came about sleep and anxiety and depression. So first of all of these topics are things that can be benefited tremendously with a simple home pharmacy. And I'll give you some formulas here in just a moment. But I also don't like to teach natural medicine just purely allopathically. That means just take this herb for this. If you have a sleep disturbance and it's linked to chronic anxiety and tension, or perhaps it's linked to hormonal imbalance of menopause, these are situations where you need to understand the situation a little bit more holistically, and you also need to understand what herbs can do and cannot do. A lot of people think that herbs are just an alternative to a prescription drug, and that they work the same, that you just take something and it's going to make something go away. But when it comes to anxiety and sleep disorders and depression, these 3 conditions specifically are not the same as taking an herb at a high level for a short period of time for a digestive infection. These are conditions that really require that we retrain our nervous system and we incorporate some other complementary treatments. So the way that I like to present the material in these modules is that the herbs are allies that help us to do our karmic homework. And what that means is that if we are ready to make changes, the herbs will help us with those changes. So in the module for relaxing the nervous system, I don't just give the formulas, I am also telling people you should use the formulas in conjunction with your meditation and relaxation practice. You should use the herbal baths to relax while you are also drinking the herbal teas to relax. And the more ways that we can combine things and the more we can use the herbs to help us make deeper change, the better the results we'll get. So sleep and anxiety formulas are covered in Module 6 and 7. And Module 6 is combining herbs and essential oils for relaxing the nervous system. And then 7 is the formulary for that. And then we touch on depression in Modules 8 and 9, which are combining herbs and essential oils for strengthening and energizing the nervous system. So we have 4 modules that are dedicated to the nervous system. 2 of them are for helping the nervous system relax, and 2 of them are for increasing the energy of the nervous system. And that's how we can approach anxiety and depression in a very balanced and helpful way. Now, the topic of anxiety, insomnia, and depression is also covered. There's quite a lot of overlap here because these are also things that we're going to cover in Module 10 and 11, which are the modules for combining herbs and essential oils for the female hormonal system. So that's how I approach those particular things. And I just wanted to give you a quick overview of my thinking on that. Now, let me give you a few examples here, since you are asking, what do we do about this problem? Well, I'll give you some practical advice now, straight out of the course. So if we look at Module 7, there are several sections. The first section is formulas for stress and tension. Everybody has stress and tension. Well, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people. And that's the first section. And we have 9 formulas for just stress and tension. And that's the first section. In part 2, we have formulas for tension headaches. And then we have part 3, formulas for nervousness and irritability. Well, is there some overlap between stress and tension and nervousness and irritability? Of course. And it's very individual, because some people might think, well, I'm actually more irritable and I need something for that. There are a lot of ways that these can be broken down more specifically, but they also overlap a bit. So we have how many? 5 formulas for nervousness and irritability. Then we have formulas for stress-related insomnia. The reason that we have this section here is because there are so many kinds of sleep disorders. And that's why we have to be specific about what the modules are covering and what they're not. So stress-related insomnia is something that's treated with relaxant, nervine, calmative herbs. And that's different than other kinds of sleep disorders coming from other causes. And then the last part here, formulas for chronic adrenal overstimulation. So that's an overview of how we could address this. But let's look at a few of these, for example, just for stress and tension. And of course, these overlap with anxiety. So here's an example. These formulas are very simple. These are not exotic. They're not complicated. They're all from things that are easily available, and they're all very, very safe. There are a handful of herbs in this course that are really clinical grade, but then I give very specific doses and when to use them and not to use them. But for the most part, this is a home formulary. So here's Formula 1. Formulas for stress and tension. We take equal parts of chamomile, catnip, and lemon balm. You probably know these herbs. Well, they sound ridiculously simple, but if people just used chamomile, catnip, and lemon balm on a regular basis, they'd sleep a lot better, and people would save millions and millions of dollars every year on over-the-counter and prescription medications for sleep. Now, what do we do with it? We make a hot water infusion using 1 teaspoon of the mixture, steep for 10 to 15 minutes in a cup of hot water. Every one of these formulas gives a specific way of preparing it. Then, what's the dose? We will take 1/2 to 1 cup, 3 to 6 times a day. And that, of course, is personal preference. Then, you can add 1/2 dropper of passion flower tincture 2 to 3 times a day to that tea. So there's your herbal formula, all right? It's chamomile, catnip, lemon balm, and passion flower. That's highly effective. We shouldn't underrate these humble healers, these herbs that are basically just weeds that will do so much for us. Now, passion flower is a fairly strong sedative, but it is very, very good for sleep, and it's very good for anxiety, so that answers the question specifically. Now, that's only the first half of the first formula. What about the essential oils? Well, aromatherapy is very flexible, actually. It's not the same as using herbal medicine, where this herb is much more targeted. It's much more general because it's working through the sense of smell, and it's also very subjective. So there's a lot of variation here, but we could start with something like equal parts of lavender, geranium, and orange essential oils. So that's the first combination. Mix equal parts as a blend. What are you going to do with it? Well, you can use it in a diffuser. That's a nice background fragrance. Or you can put 5 drops total of that blend into a bath. So that's a specific formula for stress and tension, which is also very good for anxiety. Let's go ahead and look at a formula for nervousness and irritability. How about we get into something a little stronger and nourishing here at the same time? So this is the third formula in the third section, formulas for nervousness and irritability. For this, we're going to mix equal parts of chamomile, skullcap, and California poppy, the herb California poppy. And we're going to mix all those herbs, and then we're going to take 1 teaspoon of that mixture per cup of hot water. We're going to steep it for 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to take 1/2 to 1 cup 3 to 4 times a day. And then we're going to add 1 dropper of tincture of milky oat seed to each dose. Well, chamomile is the mildest and yet most effective overall general relaxant nervine. And skullcap is an excellent, strong nervine sedative with antispasmodic power. So it's really stronger than the chamomile in terms of relaxing muscular tension. And then the California poppy is a general sedative, and it's very good both for adults and children. We find it a lot in the pediatric modules. And then we're going to add the milky oat tincture. And those of you who have taken the advanced courses, the herbal courses, know that milky oat seed tincture is the best nourishing formula for exhausted adrenal glands. The exhausted nervous system, burned out adrenal system syndrome. So this is another example of how we can treat anxiety. And it's another example of how we can also treat sleep disorders as well. Now, those are a few simple examples. Let's touch on depression here very quickly. And then we can move to a couple other things. So again, depression is not something that you just take St. John's wort and it goes away. St. John's wort is good for a certain kind of mild to moderate transient type of depression. For example, seasonal affective disorder, it's combined with lemon balm frequently for good results with that. But the thing that's nice about combining herbs and essential oils that's a little bit more holistic than just taking capsules is that there are a lot of ways that we can make the herbs and the treatments really pleasurable. That's one of the things that I focus on in both relaxing the nervous system and energizing the nervous system, is that these are not just medical. These are actually lifestyle kinds of treatments that if you start to bring them in, you're going to feel happier because you're taking an aromatic bath, and you're going to feel less depressed because you are enjoying your traditional gourd and bombilla, drinking some yerba mate, which is going to give you a nice energy lift and give you lots of antioxidants. So there's a lot of pleasurable ways that we can use herbs and essential oils here that take the medical side out of it a little bit and make it more enjoyable overall. So what are we going to use here for depression? Well, let's look at Module 9 formulary, and we're going to see a lot of things about energizing the nervous system. So the first section is supporting cognitive functions and enhancing concentration, memory, and mental energy. Is that related to depression? Yes, absolutely. Mental energy is the main thing that we're missing when we get into depressive states. And if we increase our mental energy, then our depressive state will start to lift. So this is a very important aspect of herbal medicine, actually, is knowing how to give the brain energy. And that's a very important way of approaching depression. In section 2 here, formula for long-term protection against neurodegenerative conditions. So neurodegeneration is a very serious thing, but we should start taking action now preventively, and herbs will help to do this. And this is also linked to depression, and both as a cause and a symptom as well. Then in section 3, formulas for antidepressant and mood uplifting benefits. So here's a specific answer to many people's questions here. So what are we going to do? Let me find a couple of things here quickly. All right, here's a good example of a formula that is energizing to the brain and the nervous system that also has traditional and modern scientific research backing it up as these herbs having antidepressant purposes. So we are going to take equal parts of the herbs of rosemary, sage, and Tulsi. So rosemary is a brain tonic. It's very good for concentration. It prevents neurodegenerative conditions, slows them down once they start. Inhaling the rosemary essential oil has been proven to increase memory and recall. Sage is a very powerful tonic for the nervous system. That's why they call it sage. It's a longevity tonic, according to old European herbology. And then the Tulsi in Ayurveda, many people know about Tulsi. They might know it for their digestive problems or their respiratory system, but Tulsi is actually known as a tonic, a strengthening herb for the prana, the life force of the brain. So we're going to take rosemary, sage, and Tulsi. We're going to mix equal parts, and then we're going to take 1 teaspoon. Again, you're going to hear this kind of preparation method over and over. We're going to take 1 teaspoon of that blend. We're going to steep it in 1 cup hot water. Then you're going to take a standard dose, a half a cup, 2 to 3 times a day. This is a little bit stronger. We don't need to drink 1 cup 6 times a day. We can take a half a cup 2 to 3 times a day. And what are we going to add? Well, we have a whole variety of things we could pick from this section, but in this particular formula, we have St. John's wort. Okay, it's good for depression. It helps a lot of people. Millions of people use St. John's wort. It must be doing something. And we're going to also add bacopa. Now, bacopa is a very interesting herb. It's getting a lot of research now. It's one of the main ingredients in all those cognitive enhancing formulas that you're getting in your spam box all the time. Well, I'm going to give you some really good sources of high quality organic herbs. All right. You don't need those kind of formulas from the internet. You can just get them from the people who are growing the herbs. So bacopa is a really good neuroprotective herb, and it also helps with memory and concentration. Now, why am I using bacopa in this particular formula and all these other herbs as well? Well, we don't treat depression specifically because there are so many different causes, but what we can do is we can strengthen the brain, and we can use some herbs that are known to have a kind of uplifting effect energetically. All right, so that covers a whole lot of questions that came in, and these are just some simple examples. Obviously, we can spend hours and hours. And if you take the course, we will spend hours and hours talking about these different formulas and learning about different things for sleep and learning about different things for anxiety and learning about different things for depression. But I think now that we've covered 3 of the really big topics that were on people's minds, we can shift the focus here for just a moment. And I'll turn it back to you, Lisa, because I know that you have a few things that you wanted to say. And then I will continue with some other questions about people's concerns, stopping smoking and pain and things like that, that are covered in the course.
All right, great. Well, I just want to remind everybody, and those of you who are just joining us, we're here with David Crow, learning about his upcoming course, Combining Herbs and Essential Oils. And it begins Wednesday, November 28th. And you can log on to combiningerbesandoils.com for all the details and to register. And David, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And in the meantime, I'm wondering, your kitchen must look like an herbal pharmacy. I would love to see it sometime.
It is an herbal pharmacy. Our cupboards are overflowing with herbs. So here's a nice question. It's not a specific medical question, but it does touch on a very important principle that is woven throughout this entire course. And that is, when would I choose to make an herbal tea versus using essential oil of the same herb? And that just reminded me, I forgot to give you guys the essential oil combination for that last one. So let me go back and see if I can find this here quickly. All right, yes. So I gave you a formula of rosemary, sage, and Tulsi. Now, you're going to combine that and make that for a tea. Now, could you also use any of those essential oils? Yes, I don't recommend sage, but the rosemary and the Tulsi could also be put in the diffuser. So that's an example of how you can use an aromatic herb as a tea, and you can also put the oil in a diffuser. Why would we do that? Well, because it will enhance the benefits. And furthermore, you're going to get the active ingredients of the plant through different systems and channels. So you drink the rosemary tea, you're going to ingested orally, it's going to go into the digestive system in the liver, and it's going to feed the brain through cerebral circulation. And if you are breathing the rosemary essential oil from the diffuser, you're also going to be feeding the brain through the olfactory link. So that's how we can understand the basic reasoning of why we would like to combine herbs and essential oils, because there are different strengths and weaknesses. Different herbs are better at treating different systems, and different oils are better at treating different systems. Sometimes it's the same species, and we can just use it in different forms and get a stronger effect. Or sometimes we would like to use herbs that do something that the oils don't do, or oils that do something that the herbs don't do. And that way, we can get combined effects. Now, just to finish that last formula, what are you going to combine with your rosemary, sage, and tulsi tea, along with your tincture of bacopa and St. John's wort? You can use a couple different things. One, equal parts of essential oils of myrtle, laurel, and tulsi in the diffuser. Those oils are all nice and spicy and energizing. Okay, those are not oils that are going to make you feel all sedated and relaxed. In depressive states, we would like the home to smell like spices and flowers. Those are a few of the examples of how we can treat depression. Now, what else can you do? I suggest here in this formula, wear perfume of jasmine. Jasmine is beautifully antidepressant. It's actually intoxicating. And if we are pleasantly intoxicated and euphoric, at least it will maybe distract us a little bit or help us forget that we're depressed. So I think I answered this question about when to take the tea and when to use the oils. But again, it's that you can combine them according to the strengths of the herbs and the strengths of the oils when you would like to use something. Like, for example, when we're talking in the respiratory system, modules, 2 modules in the respiratory system, one of the things that we will do is look at why are essential oils valuable for the respiratory system. Well, essential oils are actually extremely valuable. As a matter of fact, in many conditions for the respiratory system, the essential oils are more important than the herbs. But at the same time, they also cannot do certain things that the herbs can do. This is why you would want to use herbs in some cases and oils in another. Now, why are the essential oils so important for the respiratory system? Well, this is fairly obvious. It's because if you have eucalyptus oil going in a diffuser, the micro droplets in the vapor in the air are going to come into direct contact with the mucous membranes of the sinuses and the respiratory system. And that's going to have a direct effect on any microbial infection, any inflammation, any congestion. So eucalyptus oil is decongestant. Eucalyptus oil is expectorant. It works directly by coming in contact in very, very minute biocompatible levels with the terrain of the mucous membrane of the lungs. And the herbs won't do that because they're going to be passing through the digestive system first, okay? Now, the essential oils will do a lot of things in the respiratory system that the herbs won't do because they're coming in direct contact. But the same is true about the herbs. The herbs can do a lot of things that the oils cannot. Oils cannot give nutrition, even though they're highly concentrated nutrients in a certain way, full of antioxidants and lots of terpenoid compounds and things that the body can use as nutrition. We can't ingest essential oils internally without a very high risk of damaging the mucosal lining of the digestive tract. They are caustic, irritant, and toxic if they are taken as undiluted essential oils into the GI system. And so therefore, we can't use them as a source of nutrition. The herbs give us nutrition. Many species of herbs are highly concentrated nutrition. Herbs also can hydrate us. Essential oils cannot hydrate us. They tend to be very drying. Those are a few of the factors. And just to answer the question one last time here, I'll give you an example. Well, why just put lavender in the diffuser? That's nice. It's good to use it for relaxation, and good sleep. But you could also put some lavender flowers in a bath, and you could also drink some lavender tea. And so if you combine the lavender in 3 different forms, you're going to get 3 times as much benefit than just using it in one particular way. So I hope that's a comprehensive answer on that. And now here we have a question that several people also asked. What would be the most effective herbal and essential oil protocol to assist in smoking cessation? And we have a section in the respiratory module just on that topic. So I'll read you some formulas from that. And we also have some further information in the module on relaxing the nervous system, because relaxing the nervous system is the primary thing that we do in addictions, because that's the primary source of a lot of the symptoms. And then we also have some further information in the modules on detoxification. So in stopping smoking or any addictions in general, we treat the nervous system and we do gentle detoxification. But for smoking, whether it's cannabis or nicotine or both, then of course we also address the respiratory system. So let me pull up the formulas here. And this is module 3. And module 3, first section is formulas for colds and flus. Second section is formulas for bronchitis. Third section is formulas for sinusitis and sinus allergies, and several of you asked about allergies. Part 4, formulas for cough. Part 5, detoxification from smoking. And part 6, management of asthma. Now, there are also several of these sections that repeat themselves in the pediatric module as well, because of course treating children's respiratory conditions is a big concern. And so we also modify all the adult formulas and their dosages so that you can treat your kids at home. That's why we call it a home formulary course. It's good for everybody. So I'm going to give a couple of answers here for those of you who are battling withdrawal symptoms or about to be of nicotine. And again, we're going to be using very simple things that are highly effective. So formula number 1, prepare the peppermint and the Tulsi tea, or one or the other, okay? And take a half to 1 cup 3 times to 4 times a day. Now, Tulsi is a respiratory herb also, and peppermint is a very good herb for the lungs, and it's also a very good herb for lifting our spirit, and Tulsi will do that as well. So you have a base tea of peppermint and Tulsi, and then you're going to add the tincture of licorice, which is very soothing to the lungs and calming to the nervous system and antispasmodic. And we're also going to add the milky oat seed tincture, which is a primary herb for nourishing the burned out adrenal system and nervous system when people are going through withdrawals. Milky oat is one of the primary withdrawal herbs. And then we're going to get into the specific withdrawal herbs, and we're also going to add tincture of blue vervain. And this is a specific clinical type of herb that herbalists and naturopaths use specifically for withdrawal symptoms. Blue vervain is nicely calmative to an agitated nervous system. So again, peppermint and Tulsi tea with tincture of licorice, milky oat seed, and blue vervain. And then what are you going to do for the essential oils? Eucalyptus and black pepper. Black pepper has scientific research showing that it actually helps reduce nicotine cravings. Eucalyptus is a decongestant expectorant. You can use those in the diffuser for background fragrance, or you can actually make that blend and put a drop or two, just inhale it directly from your palms as needed for cravings. So I'm going to give you another concept here. Lavender and chamomile as the tea. Now this is a nervine relaxant, okay? And then you can take that tea with the tincture of passion flower again. So passion flower, strong sedative relaxant. So we also have some stronger herbs that are in this and a few other essential oils, but that's just to give you a quick overview of some of the things that we might that you might find helpful. One of the points that I make in this formulary There are so many formulas in every section and so many sections in every module that what you're really getting is a very large pharmacy. And what I'm doing is I'm putting them together in different ways that I would use for myself or for my patients. Because I don't advise just taking a handful of pills or mixing all kinds of things together. What I advise is using simple approaches. Try one herb tea, try one herb tincture, see how it works. And as you become familiar with it, then you'll know what it does. And then you can start to build the formulas and make them a little more complicated, but they're also rather interchangeable. So any of the relaxing herbs in the nervous system module, a lot of those herbs are interchangeable, a lot of the tinctures are interchangeable. So it's not that these individual formulas are exactly it. They are suggestions about things that you can try, and it's very flexible in how you put all this together as well. This is like a gigantic cookbook of herbs and essential oils. And then once you start cooking, well, you can make up your own recipes. Okay, so Lisa, I know you wanted to mention something else here, so I'll pass it back to you, and then a couple of questions to conclude.
Okay, great. Wow. Well, we have time for David to respond to a few more questions. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the course itself, give some details for those of you who are asking questions about that. Once again, it's called Combining Herbs and Essential Oils. And this is going to be so much information packed into an 8-week journey under David's obviously expert guidance, where you'll learn how to equip your home pharmacy with essential oil and herb pairings, including protocols to help heal the respiratory, digestive, and nervous systems. And the 8-week course takes place on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, starting Wednesday, November 28th. And if that time doesn't work for you, that's fine. If you can't join us live, you won't miss the teachings. You will receive audio recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. And also, I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until December 12th in this case to make sure that you're absolutely happy with it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Combining Herbs and Essential Oils bonus collection. First, you'll receive an audio teaching from David Crow entitled Combining Herbs and Essential Oils for Pediatric Uses, plus the formulary of pediatric treatments. Then you'll get another audio teaching from David called Combining Herbs and Essential Oils for Home Pharmacy Kits. And you will also receive a 20% discount from David's store, Floracopia. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, November 15th, you'll receive this additional bonus gift, and that is another audio recording from David. And this one is entitled The Feast of Nectars, Elixirs for Rejuvenation. So now that we've given everybody a chance to slow down, taking all their notes, David, why don't you tell us what you're most looking forward to sharing in your upcoming course?
I think this information is really important for every family and for every home to have, because there are so many things that we can use these herbs for that we don't need antibiotics for, actually. And we don't need to be taking an excessive amount of prescription drugs if we take our health seriously at a preventive level. Now, that's the first important thing to consider about using herbal medicine. A lot of people are looking to simply stop the medications that they're on and find an herbal alternative. But this course is really helping people to prepare for a more extensive transition into herbal medicine as a kind of lifestyle, because it's not a matter of just getting off of an anti-inflammatory medication and using turmeric. It's much more complicated than that. Herbal medicine will help us in many, many ways, and that includes essential oils. Essential oils are herbal medicines. So they will help us. But we have to do our work. And the more we do our work, the more we improve the quality of our diet, the more we can retrain our nervous system through conscious relaxation and meditation, the better we can take care of our exercise routines, the more holistic treatments we can get, the more health conscious we can become holistically, the more effective the herbs will be. Now, one of the important points that I make in the modules for the pediatric formulas is that really this starts in childhood. And so if you can raise your kids using natural medicine first, as opposed to the last resort, then it's going to take out a lot of antibiotics that probably don't need to be used in many cases. Okay. Allopathic drugs are very important. They save people's lives. They have a role. I have no issue with allopathic drugs at all. I've used them when critically necessary. But they are widely overprescribed for things we can take care of ourselves. Now, how do we do that? We have two things that we have to have access to. We should have access to a qualified herbalist, naturopath, a holistic practitioner who can guide us on this journey. And we should do our own study and research and learning. So this course, in a certain way, is providing a bit of both. Now, the course is not a substitute for working with a clinician in person in the more complicated cases. But this course is presenting information that that clinician is probably going to give you anyway. This is state-of-the-art naturopathic herbal medicine. And so therefore, if you were to go see a holistic herbalist or practitioner, naturopath, most of these herbs that are in the formulary are things that they would also suggest that you get. Now, what if you don't have access to that kind of help? This course can give you the tools, very specifically, all the way from the exact dosages to the exact preparation methods. So that's what I am hoping to accomplish with this course, is to help give people those tools and that background so that they can not only help themselves in their current health, but they can also start to transition towards a healthier lifestyle, and they can start to possibly reduce some of the need for overused medications. That's how I would answer that, Lisa.
All right, great. Well, thank you. You've got plenty of questions waiting for you. If you want to go ahead and dive back in, we got about 10 minutes left. Let's see how much information you can jam pack into that.
Right. Well, now we go really fast. There are a lot of questions about using essential oils internally. And this is a subject that I would just like to clarify. Don't take essential oils internally, please. There's an epidemic of adverse reactions. They will burn your digestive system. There's all kinds of clever marketing strategies that are being used to get people to ingest essential oils internally. But first of all, if you know what I know about the quality control issues in the industry, you're not going to take the essential oils internally. Second, if you know what I know about the epidemic of adverse reactions that's happening, you're not going to take them internally also. One of the clever strategies that the marketing people are using is trying to get people to put essential oils all over their food. There are several questions about that. Can I eat essential oils with my food? No. Don't eat essential oils with your food. Now, essential oils are classified, many essential oils are classified as GRAS, G-R-A-S, generally recognized as safe. Now, the marketing people have taken that and they've really abused it. And they say, well, if it's recognized as safe, then that means that we can drink them. That's not true. You can't take that classification and say, just because the government recognizes that peppermint oil is safe to put in toothpaste at 0.01% doesn't mean that you can be taking peppermint oil undiluted on your tongue. It's that simple. So, no, don't put oregano oil all over your salad, okay? It's going to burn your mouth. And why? When you have access to wonderful fresh oregano, that's even better, and it's biocompatible. So a very good way to think about consuming oils internally is if you are one of these people that's putting 2 or 3 drops of lemon oil on a glass of water and drinking that a couple times a day, you're a candidate for permanent esophageal damage. Sorry to tell you, but that's the medical reports. Does it have immune boosting properties? Yes, maybe, but it's going to damage your esophagus. So look at it this way. Are you going to just sit down every morning and consume 10 lemons? No, that's what essential oils are. They're highly, highly concentrated. Those 3 drops of essential oils are the equivalent of basically eating the whole lemon, several lemons, every time you do that. You're not going to feel good, even though it has health benefits. All right. I hope that puts to rest all these questions. Now, here's another good question. And Lisa, I'm going to turn it back to you, and we can go ahead and take a few of the live questions coming in. I know that's always risky because people always ask me these challenging things that I don't know. Here's an important question, though. Once a person has had Lyme disease, are they able to take astragalus to help another onslaught of Lyme should they be bitten again by a tick? If not, any further information to protect myself would be greatly appreciated. Now, this is a very good question because it tells us what herbs can and can't do. So astragalus, as we're going to learn in this course, and those of you who have taken previous courses or have studied herbology, astragalus is a wonderful immune boosting tonic. It's very gentle. It's safe for kids. It's very good for people who are depleted. It's very good for women who have blood loss from heavy periods. It boosts the blood cell levels back up, both the red blood cells and the white blood cells. And that means that it works at a very deep level to boost the immune system, increases lymphocyte levels, white blood cell levels, and that means that it increases our overall immunity. So we will learn about astragalus, its preparation in different combinations in the modules on boosting respiratory immunity for adults and for kids also. So astragalus is very good for that. Now, astragalus is helpful for symptoms of Lyme's. It's a major herb for patients who have Lyme's disease and the co-infections of Lyme's because it does help boost the immune system. But that doesn't mean that it will help you keep away Lyme's and getting reinfected from another tick bite. There's a distinction to be made. So if you have had Lyme's and you have used herbal medicine, you've probably used astragalus. You should probably continue to use astragalus. But taking Lyme's will not protect you from getting bit again. And that's the distinction that we have to make here, is that the use of astragalus is not going to protect you from the bite. And that is something that you simply have to do mechanically. That's something that you're going to have to wear the right clothing. You're going to have to do tick checks on yourself and your kids. It's a mechanical process, that's all. So I wanted to answer that because I don't want people getting wrong impressions about what astragalus can do. Here's another important question about essential oils, and then Lisa, I'll turn it back to you. What effects do essential oils have on the immune system? And I wanted to answer this for 2 particular reasons. One is that the essential oils can actually have very positive effects on our immune system. The most obvious example is that if you use eucalyptus oils and conifer oils and flower oils in a diffuser, those oils are going to have antimicrobial powers purifying the atmosphere in the house. Those essential oils in microdroplet vapor form are going to prevent airborne contagion. Does that constitute enhancing immunity? Yes. It also means purifying your home. And those 2 things go together. And you're also going to be inhaling them into your respiratory system. They're going to be strengthening the terrain of the mucous membranes of your lungs because they will decongest and they are anti-inflammatory, and anything that makes your lungs healthier is going to be boosting your immune system. So the essential oils will work on many levels to increase, especially respiratory immunity. But look at it this way. What about getting a good night of sleep? Is that good for your immune system? Yes, absolutely. So how are all the different ways you can get a good night of sleep? How about a lavender bath? How about an aromatherapy massage? How about essential oils that are relaxing in the diffuser? How about all those herbs that we talked about for relaxing the nervous system? How about getting good sleep? All those methods that we can use for ourselves will translate into boosting the immune system. Lots of ways to boost immune power. One last thing, though. There are a lot of cases of people who have made themselves hypersensitive to essential oils because they have overused them. And so what they have done is they have created a hyperreactive situation, a hypersensitivity. They have overly stimulated the nervous system. So I'll give you an example. I know one person. She went into a sweat lodge, and the person running the sweat lodge poured peppermint oil all over the rocks, and she had a toxic reaction to it. And ever since then, she's been extremely hypersensitive to menthol. So the essential oils can be abused and overused, and one of the common ways that they are causing problems is from overexposure too quickly, too often, to essential oils that are not properly diluted. So you're going to hear me going on and on about this every module, how we use the oils safely, because they are the most concentrated form of herbal medicine. So that's an answer for that question. I hope, again, it's helpful. And in the last few minutes, Lisa, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, great. Thank you, David. You've fortunately answered the vast majority of the questions that have come in while you're talking anyway, because that's what FAQ is, isn't it? But we've got a question here from Jill. This is kind of interesting. She says, I haven't got a great sense of smell, and I can barely smell 99% of the time. Will aromatherapy still help me?
This is a common question, actually. And what I can say is it might. And I have seen cases where it can. But let's look at why you might be having this loss of smell. It can be for a lot of reasons. It can be from chronic infection in the sinuses. And if that's the case, then oils and steam and vapor and aromatic baths using things like eucalyptus oil and lavender oil, some of the flower oils, and some of the conifer oils, silver fir, pinyon pine, a few of my favorites. Conifer oils, eucalyptus oils, some of the citrus oils, they will have a cleansing effect on the sinuses. And so they're decongestant. They're very good for colds and flus. And if the loss of sense of smell is because of chronic infection in the sinuses, it can help with that, all right? But loss of sense of smell is also linked directly to neurodegenerative conditions. And the olfactory sense is actually very indicative of the stage of progression of neurodegenerative disorders. They test people now using perfume strips to see what stage Parkinson's is in, for example, because as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's progress, they have a progressive loss of sense of smell. Now, what's interesting about that is that if you are having these symptoms of neurodegenerative conditions and you're gradually losing your sense of smell, when I first learned about that many years ago, my first thought was, well, if the internal neurodegenerative process is manifesting as an external chemosensory disorder of losing our sense of smell, then maybe it's possible that we could use fragrance to activate the brain. Well, fragrance does activate the brain, and it does help restore memory in some cases. So I had a case, and this is for the person asking. This was a case recently. I met a gentleman who has Parkinson's, and he had not been able to smell anything for several years. And he came to a workshop. He was there for 5 days. And during that time, I was passing around a lot of different essential oils for him to sample. He wasn't smelling any of them. And then suddenly, he could smell one of them. So there's a range of fragrances. And if you have a loss of sense of smell, you should experiment. Maybe something really strong like rosemary, something really soft like sandalwood or rose. maybe something earthy like vetiver, maybe something fruity like orange, and just go through and sample a few things at a time and see whether you can smell them or not. And what happened in the case of this gentleman was that as the workshop went by, it was in his second day or so, he was able to smell something for the first time in years. And it was so emotional for him that it became so emotional for everybody in the whole group that his sense of smell revived. And I stayed in touch with him, and he started to bring all kinds of different fragrances in, and he was gradually able to start smelling things more. Now, does that happen all the time? Is that guaranteed? No. Is it possible? Yes. Because we know that neurodegenerative conditions can be reversed and slowed down through a variety of different sensory exercises, physical exercise and nutrition, exercises with the eyes and with light, and brain exercises and math exercises and all kinds of sensory exercises. So why not include fragrance also? All right. So I hope that's helpful. And Lisa, it looks like I'm starting to go on past my time here, so I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Yeah, this has just been an information-packed hour. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of the questions that you submitted for David. Once again, Combining Herbs and Essential Oils starts Wednesday, November 28th. And again, you can visit combiningerbesandoils.com to learn more and to register. So before we cut you loose, David, do you have any final words for our viewers?
I would just like to say thank you for your sincere interest in coming to this brief introduction. And thank you for your interest in this bigger topic of learning how to use herbs and essential oils. I personally think it is one of the most important natural resources that we have, the plant medicines and their different extracts and the different ways that we use them. I think they are becoming increasingly necessary to protect our health. And having a high level of education, a good, solid education about how to use these herbs and these oils safely is really, really important. And so thank you to everybody for your interest and checking out this brief introduction. And I hope you got some good answers to your questions. And thank you again, Lisa, as always.
All right. And again, thank you, David. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. And I want to thank everyone who joined us. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great night, everyone.